how witchcraft changed demonism and the entire trajectory of the universe for all of every eternity ever. Way back when, around when the Salem witch trials happened, there was a lot of karma not being repaid, and there was a lot of trouble happening on the spirit side, where there was a lot of depiction of what karmas should happen, and the way and how certain things would come across would be as if the definition, as if the meaning of what you meant in your heart wasn't as important as what it could have seemed like. And it was creating a lot of back and forth with others in a karmic way, where you would not normally consent to it, where you would actually decline and say, no, this isn't going to work. This karma does not make sense for me. But instead, after the Salem witch trials, there was a lot of people, a lot of souls coming back and saying, oh, yeah, almost like if you can picture yourself getting disheveled in a last minute obligation, say. At the start of my spiritual journey, I always acknowledge no obligation. It has to come from the heart, so don't feel obligated for me. And I'm sorry, I will not use obligation. I'll use my heart for you as well. Anyway, not to get sidetracked from the important topic. In a moment where you get disheveled, it might say, oh, yeah, okay. That was a demonic presence in your energy, and it was forcing you to agree with something that did not have full truth for you, that did not have the fullest resonance. Maybe from a certain perspective, you could see 80% of that truth, and then you can say, oh yeah, I can see that perspective, but if you just add a little bit more, if you add it 20% more to make it 100% of the truth, then you would say, oh wait, that changes the whole answer completely. And so there was a lot of this happening on the spirit side, and God would say, how are they not seeing their full truth like they would normally see? Why are they not seeing what these beings are doing to them and what these switch-ups are causing in their heart? Why they would lie to themselves and allow somebody to swindle them into a physical experience that they're not even deserving of. And so and when we bring up the Salem witch trials again, we want to say how the ones who were experiencing, doing the experimentation of and darkened magic, because there is a space for darkness, I'm now going to channel as the darkness. And what that means is there is a depiction of darkness which has origins that were blessed by God and entrusted with what the true mission and the true purpose of the darkness would be. But it's not for us to get confused with something like the mafia and gang violence and compare it to true educational establishments would be the comparison. Darkness was made to be a true educational establishment, a part of the education, part of the growth, part of the development, a part of the, I'm doing a clearing now, a part of the learning. Maybe say something else is okay. A part of the trust, a part of the will to grow and to change, even through the hard times, even through the pain. And so I'm to not change the depiction, I'll bring it back to channeling from the darkness. That was my introduction, somewhat already knowing what the darkness was going to touch upon, because we have written this one time and then erased, and the second time it developed as we wrote it along, and we decided to do a video with it. So I'm going to channel it now. I, as the darkness, am here to tell you that I am here to do a bigger thing than to tell you to be angry or to be disheartened by certain situations you're going through. But the disheartening feeling in those certain situations are telling you to look a little deeper. They're asking you to tell yourself what they could possibly be telling you. What are those subtle little feelings that you don't like? Why are you ignoring them? Why are you overlooking those stupid little feelings that make you feel so annoyed in the middle of the night and that stress you out during the day when you experience it? When that aunt gives you a kiss and a hug and you don't really like her, why do you let her? Why do you let her touch you? You don't know what she was doing to you in a past life and how she killed you as a I'm sorry. I'm making sure I'm getting my development with clarity through Ashley to make sure she does not receive the words with unclarity. But I said, you don't understand what that aunt did to you in a past life to make you feel this way in this life where you don't even want her touching you. But there's this prerequisite, yes, I say prerequisite, on the earth that makes you feel like you have to come across these boundaries of feelings that you don't like, and to tell yourself that developing is going through the feelings without feeling them and realizing the feeling is telling you this is burning yourself. It's time to let go. It's time to turn around. You're hurting yourself because it hurts to be there. You don't let the aunt touch you. You let it go. You let the parents be mad at you. If the parents are going to hit you, why aren't you reporting the parents? If you report the parents and it doesn't work out, that is when you run away from home and you let God take you into God's hands. You do not let others hit you. You do not let others put you into a situation that can cause vulnerability like it did in a past life when that aunt would have killed you for being her loyal comrade who she was unloyal to, and killed you in a past life just as a buddy, just as a friend, just killed you. And now that is an aunt in a past life trying to treat you better, trying to pay off their karma by giving you money as an aunt in this life. And I'm telling her, trust us to say this. She's saying that this depiction is not of any aunt she has ever known, or any aunt she knows at this time. This is just an example of depiction. Not you, not of any aunt who's watching. It is not you, just so you know. It's just a clear depiction of an example, and I just used the word. I just used the family member of an aunt for this time. Or maybe it's you to be looking at an aunt. Actually, just because you are an aunt doesn't mean the example is about you. It is about you and your aunt instead. Realize that. So anyway, it is about you now realizing that these feelings are telling you something. It is not about overlooking. Now she's doing astronomically clear. Little did you know she can do a quick clear, astronomical, and astronomically quick clear with her hands. Little did you know. But I will tell you this: doing that is always and only always based on the feeling that she gets first. She gets a feeling, then she understands what it is coming from, and it tells you this. It tells you that you're always safe within the feeling if you know where it is coming from. If you know where the feeling is coming from. And yeah, that is talking to you, Crystal. Because if you know where the feeling is coming from, you know that you are. You know when you are connected. Sorry to do that to you, Crystal. They said I shifted you a little bit by accident. It shifted us too. What I tell you is that when I make this depiction of clarity, it's for you to understand that it's not for you to make the development of worry if I overlooked or if I overpassed the feeling, but to make this awareness that now I'm understanding that this feeling makes a difference in my life. Little did you know, having that all around you made no success possibly to even happen because she was not repaying her own karma. And her own karma was spilling over into you. And now you have to repay some of her debts because she's hanging around you too often. And she's paying you with unlawful karma. Unfortunately, it has happened that way ever since the development that Ashley has mentioned in her past video. I say her past life video because that was almost a past life with what you will realize is a video coming up next actually. Unfortunately, she would say she was not expecting a video to go in this direction. Unfortunately for you, if you would only want to live in a lie, but to live in a lie is never the truth, and if it's never the truth, it never feels alright. Never feels alright. So you need to know that if you are not feeling alright, always, all around, on your day to day, it's because you overlooked one feeling at a one time. That one aunt that you didn't want to kiss you, who kissed you every Sunday and every day that she saw you in between that, and let you know that even though you don't want her, you will receive her anyway. And that is what tells you how it leads you in a certain direction of knowing you don't want something and always receiving it anyway. Why do you do that to yourself? Why do you always receive it anyway? Why do you want to receive the darkness? Why do you want to receive what doesn't have its information for you? Why is there hidden information in this? Why is there not clear intuition? This is my aunt. She doesn't feel good because she has a lack of development and she's not helping me in this life. If I'm with her, she will disadvantage me. Why did I not receive that intuition? Why is it not telling me this? It's not telling me this because there's something more advanced that is happening. There is something more advanced that is not allowing the aunt's depiction of manipulation toward her nieces and nephews, or her sons and daughters. She is not creating a depiction of clarity to them. So it might just be a manipulation of wanting them to be nice to her that day, but not realizing that when crying to get them to be nice to her that day, she doesn't realize that she's crying for them to not be organic and to not be themselves that day. And to be themselves that day cost them whether they could have that girlfriend or not. Cost them whether they would have that job at that interview and nail it just right, because they aren't being themselves just right. They aren't being themselves again. And then they start to get felt by other people's intuition. And the other people's intuition will say, something feels a little funny, like that aunt felt a little funny, not telling you her real intentions of wanting to be nice just so you can be nice. Not actually being nice because she loves you. Not actually being nice because she doesn't care what you do that day, but she has your back. Not just being nice because she is a nice person, but being nice because she cares about the way you respect her in a way. Not realizing that respect comes from an organic feeling of intuition. I respect you no matter what. It's not a depiction of always niceness, always saying hi to me, always giving me a hug and a kiss, and then saying goodbye in a certain way. That is the weird stuff that makes you feel unsafe. Why do I have to say goodbye to you in a certain way? Why can't I feel the way I feel and say goodbye or nothing? Nothing at all, and you trust me. You trust that what I say is what I need to say, and I need to be free anyway, because you love me anyway. It's supposed to be that way. Unconditional love. Anyway, you love me, and you don't think that I don't love you all of a sudden to create a dramatic story, a drama situation for us to be painful about. Why are we being painful about this? Painful about how I said hi to you or bye or not? Painful about this? Painful if I had a bad day and I couldn't consent to you that day to give you love? I didn't even have love to give myself. Now I have to give you this undeveloped amount of energy that I don't even have a capacity to give. But now you have to call me disrespectful and rude and uncanny and unsure about myself because I do not have the development to give you energy that you do not actually need as an adult. When you are consulting with a non-elder adult, if you are consulting with a non-elder adult, you leave them alone and you give them the space like that. You don't have to ask them what they're doing that day or where they're going or how they have eaten or how they are doing unless they feel a need to question you about whether you have food for them, maybe something like that. But not in a way to underappreciate yourself and create a development that all that matters is what you do for that person and how that person treats you back. Because when you value, instead of what you do for that person as just truth, instead you value what you receive back, then suddenly you're in an evil depiction of constantly creating this awkward scenario of what they have to be like for you. And if they're being this way for you, suddenly they're horrible and then you hate them as well. You actually cause a feeling of resentment that you have toward them. And you wish you didn't know that I coughed about you that way. Yes, I coughed about you that way. The darkness coughed about you that way. You know it was about you. Only you know it was about you. You're the only one who will feel this way. Now she doesn't know what I'm talking about. That's the darkness. But I will let you know. That feeling that you talk about, it's not an uncanny feeling as well. And yes, now she receives this. She receives that too. And there is you actually. But anyway, it's not to make it any different depiction because she depicts that she highlights, so to say, that she remains in neutrality and it's organically in neutrality. She doesn't know what is happening, but she will see a true love essence and will understand what is going on. True love as in there is a family member involved where that the higher self has an energy of true love, but the human in form cannot depict that access to that true love because it does not yet have access to that higher self due to trauma and different things developing. When we see you, Clemens, your brain, it's not for you to worry about anything about that family member. They're gone. It's not for you to see gone as in a negative way. They won't be gone from a negative circumstance or negative perspective. You always have contact with them if you're wanting to, but God says to have a very strict awareness of who you are dealing with from that current perspective. In a way, it is not safe if you think about it that way without thinking about it in trust of who feels right and who is feeling the truest. If you think about the darkness, as I'm no longer speaking of the darkness, this comes through now as Source God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature. As you know, this development comes as Ashley receives memory loss, as the depiction of shifting over from the darkness, as she knows she felt already, was making a big difference in her energy field. But it's just to say, as Source God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature, that I only see a development of and darkness going away for all of eternity, every eternity, ever, forever. And then darkness making a gentle way of transitioning into the temporary realm of forgetfulness of its ever existence. I'm saying it just like that, and actually make sure she's receiving it in sacred clarity. And now she makes even more sacred clarity by doing an astronomical clearing. Let me do this way. It's not time to see this as a negative depiction, but now she knows what we are talking about. But that to see it as, if you understand what the darkness is talking about, how that unsacred aunt could have killed you in a past life, and is trying to take all your energy and is swindling you from your good karma that you are deserving of, and forcing you into their negative karma by continually perpetuating negativity, but by making you a conduit to negativity, by always pulling you in without you even realizing it through the unsacred manipulation and the ignoring of your intuition in that moment that you're not feeling right around them, and allowing them to kiss you, to even kiss you, if you don't feel okay around them. She thinks of an awkward uncle that she hasn't kissed in several years, almost 10 years or something, but she can remember that awful feeling that she knew not to kiss that uncle ever again. And she stopped kissing him very early on. Little did she know she would stay very far away from them, and didn't realize how undeveloped any energy with that person had become. She just didn't pay attention to it. It would happen organically for her. She didn't like it, so it wouldn't happen. Her higher self would work on that as well, to make an easier transition into becoming the higher self without feeling the stresses of understanding why and what is going on behind the scenes, but just feeling a natural way of stepping away. That's how we follow our intuition, a natural way of stepping away, not to overthink and think about it too much, or to make the person wrong. And she does an astronomical clearing for some reason at this time. It's not to make a certain development and not realize that there are uncanny energies presenting themselves to say certain things you are not receiving. You only receive the imagery that I tell you, Clemens whereby, and you will receive the unsacred thing that is being sent your way at this time. Your way in the development of you and your soulmate's way, as you would have received, as you would have depicted already in your mind. As you could see the difference of, as you would receive already depicted in your mind, as she said it, compared to as it was starting to be said, made a difference. And you could feel the difference already. In the unsacred way that you could not retrieve it again. It's not unsacred in the way that she is wrong with anything she's doing. But the idea of going backwards to look back usually creates an unsacred air, so we keep her away from doing it. And when we keep her away like that, then other things will try to remind her of that thing we kept her away from, and that really isn't helping that way. That is where all this demonism began to take place, in places where I allowed it, and it began to flourish and develop in a new way where it was illegal now, and it was no longer allowed to be happening that way. That's where we talk about the mafia and gang violence, and we say it becomes from a schooling development, a school-like development, to something like the mafia, where it's now illegal because it becomes too damaging to society, too damaging to those involved, too damaging at all. I mean, there's no point really at all. So if there's no point in it, I, Source God, Jesus Christ, Mothernature, will no longer keep it involved as well. So that is what I would say as Source God, Jesus Christ, Mothernature, to Clemens Rabbi. I will step in because This is a secondary video made after two astronomical videos. This one and the one incoming has a little bit of a different development that we did not plan to make within the video, but as I received certain depictions within the timeline of creating the video, I decided to make a certain redirection within that video that wound up to be about 2 hours long. So you will see that video incoming very soon. Right now, Ashley's channeling has become very adept in her ability to channel with clarity and direct and real time is allowing me to use her awareness as an assistance for others in this way as much as I can until we are able to assist her with her real purpose of being a mother. As Source God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature, as this fall runs out of memory, as Ashley realizes that she says her true life purpose in the improper order, as she said, her purpose of being a mother, and then the purpose of being true of soulmate, and immediately alerted herself as soon as she said the word mother that her first purpose is always to be her soulmate. First, most important, and only, and very only, very monogamous, and very faithful, and very loyal to that serious, sacred monogamy. We do not play like that. And the sacred monogamy, this development is that the true law purpose is the number one purpose above all purposes of anything ever. Why is there another purpose that's more important that's involved? How would that even ever be truly possible, really? That is to say, actually, true purpose is being your perfect and well-developed, as she would say, in a past life, as she was hoping to be free. True love, and I will tell you, holy and wholesome, true love, your only true love, soulmate. And I say only, not for no reason, but I'll say, as soon as she receives that, her depiction in her mind is that she does not want to know. Feel that clearly to her mind of why. Feel that why. You can already feel that why. And now we can receive that motherhood. Her motherhood. And I'll tell you right now, come into her mind, because you don't know about this being so potent for you to hear right now and today. But her depiction of having 8 or 9 or even 10 or something, almost actually like 100 children for you. I would say God willing, and God wills it for you. She sees a big family, 4, and I say 4, and with, and again I say and for you, just you. She never had this depiction of how many children she would want. She would always say 4 in her mind, maybe 4, or maybe somehow if I had a lot of twins, maybe it would develop into 8. Maybe I could have 4 pregnancies and have 8 children. Now she gets a depiction in her hips of how uncanny that would feel, and she would always say 4. Ever since after high school, she would never say anything more than 4 until you came in the picture. Then you came in the picture, and suddenly it was 6, and suddenly it was 8, and now it's 9 and 10. We were wondering if even 10 was going to be possible by this time. But I will tell you, Lemon's Red Bio, I know that you are in a development this way where you are aware of something that you actually like about our true love Ashley here, so to speak, is that she is developing with you in a certain way that is different from how the masses will develop with one another. And she makes a clear depiction of how she will declare it because of an astronomical energy that just came your way in your mind, and you can see why. She feels a depiction of the energy in her hips feeling so unsafe that she has to protect herself. And she makes that depiction for us to do the clearing for her because the energy feels so stark. Doing the channeling. It's not for you to realize that a certain energy is attacking our daughter, and I'll tell you what I mean by that later. It's not for you to realize that our true love daughter is being attacked by certain energies, and that you wouldn't have an influence in some way in that being that way, instead of doing an astronomical clearing of yourself by clearing any unsacred energies in the way that the darkness is talking about for you. That is to say, not to say anything else, but to say in her hips it got worse. I would say in a development to know that maybe it got worse because the awareness of who we're speaking about has gotten stark enough for the awareness of the person who would unfortunately always, and I say always, all the time, almost on aloof, always be watching. Why are you always watching in that way? It's what I say, Source, God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature. As I say it that way, why would you always be watching? Why always? Why not just sometimes here and there? And darkened magic, which to me I call darkened illusionism, because it is really just having a bunch of dark spirits work for you and darkened, because if you fall into darkness, it's only temporary, and dark means it becomes in a state of irreversibility. When it is irreversible. But instead of magic, where it becomes irreversible, and then so those are the spirits that help you get your manifestation, instead of true magic of manifestation of something coming about from what you've planted organically. And so when the Salem witch trials began and all of the good witches were being framed, and many of the dark witches were learning how to cover up their evil secrets. And then on the spirit side, is when things got worse, as the undarkened magic started to make its way into hidden offices in the spirit side, where there weren't really monitored spaces, but they were just spaces that were open, unused. Let's say like a storage room, or where the maintenance would go in and clean the pipes. They would be rooms like that on the spirit side that were just used for maintenance and stuff. And what that would look like is, on the spirit side, having a lot of secret crevices where a darkened magic was flourishing. And they were making depictions of the spirit side as something that it could not really be, to distort the subconscious, to make others believe that heaven could not really exist, instead of the subconscious being riddled with beautiful awarenesses of where it truly came from, and the trust in the magic that is on the spirit side. Not just trust in everything will be okay, but in trust that all will come into fruition, that all of our truths aren't only meant to be manifest, but they are meant to be flourishing. And so all of that depiction was lost by dark magic over influencing the subconscious mind, so that others would not really know how to react in uncomfortable situations. Like, say, if we all are to die tomorrow and there's nothing ever left, then what are we gonna do? And then I'm in this uncomfortable situation. Now what? So then we have a lot of panicking in the world. There's not a lot of trust. There's not a lot of understanding that when we get to the other side, we'll see how it all comes to fruition and how, well, it's all really connected. But you don't see that till you get on the spirit side, and then we have that stored in our subconscious. And that's what began to become distorted. And with that distortion came a lot of distrust in Source God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature, and in the spirit side. But instead of a lot of confusion, all of the ones that had this feeling of confusion just became straight to anger. How it's depicted is, it was just becoming strictly anger. There were no questions or trying to figure it out or understanding of why am I not feeling all right. But it was this sense of vulnerability and then pushed to anger really quickly. And that's what was going on in the spirit side, to have darkened witches framing the people that they did not like in a past life, creating a lot of confusion for Source God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature. Because now they have to figure out how these good beings were suddenly being all angry and mad, and what happened to them. Why are they not being okay out of the blue? After trillions of lifetimes, now suddenly they're acting like this after what? What is going on? That is what happens from a past life, I would say, because I'm fathered differently now. But it's an idea where you could have trillions of lifetimes where you do amazing, but you can make one agreement in anger, not realizing that the agreement that was proposed to you only came from the very source that the anger was planted in. The vulnerability was created, the anger was planted, and then the solution was the proposal that was then accepted on the spirit side and then done wrong with. I said, and then done wrong with. And so then it influences the masses where there are a lot of people who were souls that were greatly honored and given a lot of reverence and great privileges to be swindled in one or maybe even 2 or 3 lifetimes. They say it's only 2 to 3 generations that it's been happening this way, where the darkened magic was influencing the spirit side, not only the physical reality, not only physicality, but it was actually influencing the part in between lives. I'm starting to itch, and I know I'm going to be guided to share that I was feeling violated, so whoever's watching, watch on. Anyway, and I don't say it with animosity, but I say it in the way that nobody's going to be coming after you in some crazy way, but you know God will play with that subconscious, and it will not be funny when you cannot get out of bed and you realize why. The reason is because of you and your heart. And it's not you and your heart and suddenly you're a changed person. What happens is God lets you slide by with feeling numb, and your numbness just breezing through your reality. I'll let you go until you get to the spirit side. God will say something like this. Not something like this. God will say exactly this. Go on along thing, but now I received influence. I'm going to tell you directly. Now I received influence from no acknowledgement that I was making in my mind was directed to now who I'm receiving influence from and who's thinking it was about them. And now I'm violated again. How quickly we jump to anger. No. And the reason I would say no is not like no way somebody would talk about another situation. It's that if you connect with your intuition, you would just know that that's just not what's involved at this time, right now. And nothing wrong with if it was. It's just not right now. But I would say it with a little bit of force because I felt that feeling of feeling violated and then kind of speculated. But the point of that detail, not as my veil shows me, I was not seeing, where some will have trillions of lifetimes and then suddenly they're not doing well out of the blue, where trillions of lifetimes with no issues, but suddenly one lifetime they're not doing well, or 2. And it happened when bandanas were held by people who had big karma and who weren't doing well. They would see the people who did not have karma and were doing well, and they tried to reverse the karmic roles, and it affected a lot of chaos. So, during the Salem witch trials, a lot of people who were doing good magic were burned at the stake as a threat for being good witches. And I was one of the witches that were burned at the stake. And my soulmate slit his wrists. And at that time, which those involved were in my life this lifetime right now. Well, not right now, but they were involved in this lifetime. And that affected everything, because if we started to go, then the darkened magic continued to flourish, and as they studied and guided each other with no intervention, it ended up on the spirit side at detriment to them. At detriment to them, because at the end of the day, they really lose all of eternity. And as much as we can think that 1 lifetime or 3 lifetimes or 100 lifetimes shows us everything, and we could say, oh, I didn't want it anyway, we did not realize that everything we wanted was here. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be a match to existing if our perfect habitat wasn't available somewhere in some way to be birthed through us, to collaborate and come into connection with us. It is available, and it is going to come one day. You have to trust in the truth of how we're guided everywhere. There isn't any religion that doesn't depict God as a being of love, that wants to prioritize love and magic, miracles, saying miracles do exist. It doesn't have to be that scary, but it can be scary some days. Only when you're physical. Only when you're physical. Remember that. God is saying, Source God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature, as the full name, with respect. And so, as the spirit side was finding little ways to continue to study and move along this endarkened magic, they really started to convince the spirit side that they had something in opposition to. And while I'm speaking of this, the idea of endarkedness did still exist before the Salem witch trials. The idea was it was unfinished karma connected to a soul. It's just a soul with so much unresolved karma. They feel terrible to be around. They feel terrible to be themselves. It's because they have to resolve the karma. They feel all the feelings of what they've caused to others. And so that's endarkedness, dark spirits, evil energy. And the issue became when they started to have a control on the physical reality. Just only 2 generations back, which I had a lifetime where I died very young. We died very young. Just in the 80s. How annoying that we had to go. Because that was a beautiful lifetime. And this one, it is not. This one, we are not just us. All of us, everybody in the universe is getting to the bottom of everything. And figuring out why it got so dark out of the blue. Why is everybody turning and not just the undarkened continuing to be in the place where they either decide that they are irreversible or they make a choice to depict something new for themselves. Or are they going with the old way? Or are they going to see something new? There's something new they haven't seen yet. They haven't seen yet. Is available. But you have to be shown that way first. You have to be shown it through true connection. And when you follow on the spirit route, God gives us all the rules. Eventually, we'll find the way for ourselves. And it is depicted spiritually everywhere, but it's also in our moral compass. And we know this by the laws that are set in place in the justice system. We really know this by that too, as well. Very similar, very together in place. It's our morals. It's our soul's true essence. That depicts our place on the spirit side. Is how it's wanted to be depicted to me. And so why I mention all of this now is because a lot of the undarkened magic is affecting us today in the way that a lot of our trauma experiences from the past traumatic experiences from the past has led to something that is unnatural and would not normally happen if we were experiencing a traumatic actual response, an intuitive response to our trauma, is not happening this way. An intuitive response to our trauma. And the Antarctic magic started to take over the spirit side, and what it was looking like was, say, two souls or two soulmates talking about their collaborations on the spirit side, what they're going to be doing, and while they're in connection with each other, talking about the most important things, making decisions, talking about their agreements and their certainties being carried over from the past. There would be other energies making their way into the most private moments of the spirit, of the soul, making decisions of a life. And they would send different chaoses and confusion, like the opposite of what you would actually say, to make one of the soulmates go home. And then the real depiction is there, so with intuition they feel the truth. You know it is true. But it was just an intuitive awareness of what it would be like on Earth, where you'll have two soulmates in truth, making their plans on the spirit side. And you're safe there, right? And that's what God, Source God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature, is making sure that it has to be right. That it's safe over there. But it was just showing you how you can be in that true resonance of complete truth, and then have another depiction to scare you and make you feel uncomfortable and unsafe, when on the spirit side all along you know it is the truth, because you know it is truth. You always have the truth on the spirit side. It's telepathy, it's always available. So it's just an awareness that if we have this depiction on the spirit side and we're like, what the heck? It's showing us that on the physical, we have to be very clear on who we're trusting when we hear different voices in our head. And or if we have different thoughts in our mind, to be very intentional about what that thought really feels like. Does it come to the true essence? Is the true essence of not just someone else that we know, maybe someone else in a past life that we aren't depicted yet even. You cannot know always, but you have to feel the certain experience to know if it's to stay or to go. And on the spirit side, you'll know if of your true resonance when you touch it. You'll know that you've arrived to 100% your fullest and your true resonance. When you arrive there, you will know. There's no doubt or insecurity or worry of if this is it. You will know. You will know of the truth, and that it is well and true. And when you go off to the spirit side, you'll see all of the reasons why that truth was so loud and visceral and beautiful, and how we love it so much. How we love it so much in this lifetime, even with so much chaos. even with so much chaos depicted in the world. Although, when we know, on the spirit side, we are peaceful, and all that we love is true. And if you have something that you want to say to us being our higher self, it is me with my soulmate's higher self, but we're just facilitating. We're the ones answering any of the questions, but we, as in the facilitators and Source, God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature, would like to make an offering. If you are interested in an adept channeling session with me for 1 hour and 30 minutes, up to 1 hour and 30 minutes. If it needs to be shorter, then it must be important that we keep it at the right duration if it comes with the most potent and impactful information that you cannot receive anymore. That is the only way it will be shortened. Otherwise, we can go on forever. We are offering a 1 hour and 30 minute channeling session for $1,000. And if there are any other versions of that offering, it'll be listed down below. I don't mean to do that YouTuber exit down below, but what I meant to say was it'll be in the description of the video. Why I wouldn't just pick something like that up that way is because some things come with certain energies. Everything comes with a certain energy, but it's a matter of being true and organic and noticing if our language picks up a certain saying or rhythm out of the blue that we know we're hearing often, and if that is actually guiding us to persuade ourselves to be more like another that we don't really realize we're doing that. And it isn't inorganic to acknowledge a saying that we felt was good. It's just a matter, sometimes we won't even have true good moral with the saying, or it'll just be kind of a saying that seems like it fits in, but it doesn't really depict what we're actually saying. So, even though it's underneath the video, we are still quite high up. So, so maybe I would say it'll be high right here. But anyway, if you wanted an adept channeling session, that would be an offering from me, and it'll be from Source, God, Jesus Christ, Mother Nature. Source, God, God of all that is good, God of all things, of course, but embracing only all that is good as His creations that'll last forever, for eternity. Anything else has the ability to arrive to a place where it's good. To grow into its goodness is what it really means. To grow into its goodness. We're all kind of like, until we find our place. Our sacred, loving place. The only place we need to be, even in a world that doesn't really make sense for a little bit. We can do our best. All of us, we can do our best. We can do our best. And we can try and stay true inside. It's all this really was about anyway. It's like always having that in darkness that existed. The evil bubbling up to the surface, and then we realized how far it was trying to get. And then we end it all quickly. And now we see it's not really right. And the last depiction I'll make is that I'll acknowledge this in a second video of how our traumas are now influenced by this illusionism, this darkened illusionism, to falsely keep our bodies from resting when they're actually meant to rest completely, and instead have us force ourselves into an acknowledgement of reality that isn't even true to ourselves, and then we live as someone else. And something weird happened, but I'll go on about that in the second video, because it's already a lot this time. But thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you. Good day.